There she is.
Hey, Councilman, you're ready to go.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Here we are, the Tuesday, August 11th council meeting via Zoom once again. Welcome, everyone. Margot, call to order. Statement of minutes.
Thank you. I, Margot G.K., the town clerk of the town of Morristown, do hereby state that it is 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday, August 11th, 2020. This meeting is being held remotely via webinar. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided according to law by written notice to the Morristown Daily Record, the official newspaper of the town of Morristown, and to the Newark Star Ledger, both more than 48 hours ago. Notice was also posted on the bulletin board at Town Hall and filed with the office of the town clerk of the town of Morristown. I do further state that I shall enter into the minutes of this meeting a statement that such notice was furnished as particularly described by me in this public announcement. I will take a roll call. Councilwoman Cotton?
Here.
Councilwoman Foster?
Here.
Councilman Iannacone?
Here.
Councilwoman Mayer?
Here.
Councilman Silva?
Present.
And Council President Armington?
Here.
Councilman Elms is excused this evening. Council President, you have a quorum.
Fantastic. Okay, we'll start off with a moment of silence.
I want to ask prayers for the family of Efrain Diaz. He was a good member of our community with his business, ED Multi-Service, serving the Latino community on filing taxes and doing financial transactions, translating letters and documents for important matters of people's lives in the Latino community. He passed away 2 weeks ago. His daughters will continue the business, so let's pray for his people, for his family, please.
Okay, we'll sit for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
Okay, before we get started, please be aware that public comment during the public hearing portion of the meeting will be moderated through the Zoom app. At the appropriate time, members of the public wishing to speak should indicate so by raising his or her hand in the app. You will find the raise your hand icon at the bottom left side of your screen. When it's your turn, the moderator will send a signal through the app and ask that you unmute yourself so that you may be heard. We have three items on the consent agenda this evening. Unless a member of council would like to consider one or more separately, I would ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I will have a comment and a question on 024/2020.
Right now, we're looking at the consent agenda. The three.
Just the minutes.
Okay.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda in mass.
I'll second.
Okay. Councilwoman Cotton.
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster.
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone.
Yes.
Councilwoman Mayer.
Yes.
Councilman Silva.
Yes.
Council President Armington.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, move it. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was going to say at this time I'll open up the floor for a public hearing on any matter. Again, please raise your hand in the app to indicate that you would like to speak. Kindly state your name and address and limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. Please be aware that any derogatory comments made toward members of council or administration may be ruled out of order.
Okay, first up is Mrs. Carrington.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I was interested, I see that you have a noise ordinance on this, not an ordinance, but it's on new business. So I wanted to say that I had written to council members several weeks ago via the clerk to express interest in controlling construction noise that occurs off hours when things like dumpsters are delivered or when the portable Johnny is emptied at 4:30 in the morning and the truck backs up and goes beep, beep, beep and idles, or the dumpster comes on a Sunday afternoon. I checked the regulations which the town has, and the regulations currently address things like this for non-residential zones, I think commercial zones. So my purpose in writing to you was to ask that you include the residential zone in the regulations. And then I have another issue which I'm working on with our 4th Ward Council member, Sandy Meyer, about the smell of smoke from fire pits. One morning at 12:30 in the morning, the smell of smoke invaded my bedroom and I thought my house was on fire. And then I realized, no, it was a smoke pit in the neighborhood. And this is ongoing, and other neighbors have the same issue. So I will be writing to you shortly with suggestions, but I'm just asking if anybody would like to consider this. I'm sure it takes place in other neighborhoods too. So thank you, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Linda.
Council President, I do not see any other hands raised for public comment.
Okay.
I'm sorry, there is one more hand raised. Peter Griffo.
Yes. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good. I just
Please state your name and your address for the record.
Sure. It's Peter Griffo, and we're on 16 Catherine Lane.
Take it away, Mr. Griffo.
Okay, so I just wanted to, real quickly, I had wanted to bring to the table the current chicken ordinances as far as Morristown is concerned. Namely, the ordinance that specifies the coop can't be any less than 50 feet from a property line. I was hoping to have that changed to reflect to 25 to 30 feet from a neighboring house rather than property line, as the property line ordinance is pretty restrictive to most of the properties around here and in town in general. I have done a ton of research in the past month or so and a lot of networking with people who have been working on this around the state, and actually a lot of towns have changed their laws recently to reflect that. I have the support of most of my neighbors that I've spoken to about this. They have no problems with it at all. And actually, what I'd really like to propose is to allow a pilot program if the town isn't quite ready to change their laws yet. To allow, because we have chickens. My situation is that somebody called animal control on us. I admittedly misread the ordinance, so I wasn't deliberately trying to defy the ordinance. But I'd like to propose, maybe over the course of 6 months or a year or even 2 years to, see how this goes, and basically let me prove to you that there won't be any issues with noise or odor or anything like that, any of the common complaints with chickens in town, then maybe revisit it down the road. I have lots of ideas about this, and I've been going nonstop about this, but mainly that particular ordinance, I think could be updated, as a lot of towns, like I said, in New Jersey, have been changing their laws specifically to something like that. And there's been a lot of research to show that, between 25 and 30 feet away from a neighboring house, as long as the coop is properly maintained, cleaned out, there will not be any noise or odor complaints. Obviously no roosters. Roosters are the ones that make the noise. We're talking about hens here. So I'd like to be able to provide food for my family. I lost my job back in March due to coronavirus once, and I might lose it again. So knowing that I would have some sort of, sustainable food source, of knowing exactly where my eggs came from, what I'm feeding the chickens, the conditions they're kept in, a whole other list of that could go on for way longer than I'd be allowed to talk here. But mainly that's what I wanted to bring up. The 50-foot to a property line ordinance, and the potential of having us be your pilot program in town to prove to the town that there won't be any issues. I don't know how much time I have. I missed the very beginning of this, but that's the gist of what I want to bring up.
All right. Any other questions? Any other comments? Public?
There's one other comment from Patrick Housel. Mr. Housel?
Hi, good evening. Patrick Housel, 172 Franklin Street. I just wanted to, I guess I just had a question for the council. This is related to One Shady Lane and their operation of a sober living facility in a single family neighborhood. As I understand it, they are slated to appear in municipal court finally in September. I believe it's on the 15th. They've pushed the date back a number of times. I guess my question for the council is, I called the municipal court because I was just trying to figure out how to obtain access to the hearings, and the woman I spoke with made mention that it could be a possibility that with this type of trial, I wasn't following 100%, but essentially the gist of it was it wouldn't be able to be tried until the court could actually be in person. And given, what we're potentially going to walk into in the fall, if that's the case, I guess my question for the council is are they going to continue to be able to operate this facility? Because if it is delayed, with unforeseen impacts of COVID, we could be looking at almost a year of them up and running. I mean, so, nothing has changed. Frequent residences. We actually had a situation 3 weeks ago where a cleaning service and folks in hazmat suit showed up. Not really sure what they were doing, but they did make mention to another neighbor when they went there incorrectly of like cleaning up for COVID. So, I don't necessarily know what's going on over there, but again, it continues to be a concern for the neighbors here in the neighborhood, and we're just concerned with a potential spike in COVID in the fall, and if they're regulated to being able to not have the court unless it's tried in person, that we could be dealing with the lingering situation well into next year.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Housel. Anyone else?
Council President, I don't see any other hands raised.
Going once, going twice. All right, we will close the public comment period. Public hearing. Any comments from council?
I'll just comment on One Shady Lane. Jillian administration has been keeping us up to date on the status of the court hearing, and I'll ask Vij to chime in about whether or not it needs to be delayed for a meeting that can be open to the public as opposed to one that's being done via Zoom or some kind of electronic format. That may be a matter for the superior courts. I don't know. But I will say that, the town has issued the violations on the property. It continues to be at least my position, that it's an inappropriate use for the property. I know that that's the issue before municipal court, but like Patrick, I would actually continue to encourage the town to maybe consider what are the stronger actions we could take for the for immediate relief, i.e. some kind of cease and desist order, what have you. We've had numerous complaints about this property since it's operated. It is a commercial use. It's not any type of real residential use. I tend to agree with Patrick and the other neighbors in that community. But again, I'll kick the question to Vij and administration.
So, Bob, you're correct. Violations have been issued. There is a trial date in September. Mr. Housel mentioned he is correct that if for some reason a trial is not possible virtually, because usually sometimes the courts are allowing virtual trials. That is happening, but if for some reason it does not happen, we are at the mercy of the Supreme Court. They're putting out guidances on a daily basis on what is and is not allowed as far as municipal court is concerned and in-person hearings are concerned. One idea that we are working on, and I think we might be able to do, is the last time I spoke to the prosecutor, both sides agreed that it's a legal issue. So no witnesses or no facts are really in dispute. And since it's a fairly purely a legal issue, both sides could submit a brief to the judge, and the judge can make a decision, the decision on whether it is a legal use, a permitted use or not. And that may help as far as the timing is concerned, and that may take away any challenges that COVID may present as far as a in-person testimony or in-person trial. So we are working on that issue. And as far as the Bobby mentioned the cease and desist, we have sent a letter to the property owner and actually the attorney saying that the town does not believe that it is a permitted use and that they should stop using the property for that use, and hence the violations that have been issued.
And there's no way of enforcing that cease and desist pending the court date?
There is, we can file an order to show cause in court, but I don't think we would, well, I don't want to say how the court would rule, but for an order to show cause, you have to show a number of factors and irreparable harm, immediacy of the issue, and the court can easily say you have a municipal court date coming up and let the municipal court decide, and Superior Court is not going to get involved. So the only way would be to file an order to show cause in Superior Court.
Thanks, Vic.
Any other comments?
I'll comment about the smoke issue. I've been in touch with Chief Flanagan about this, and he was kind enough to do a lot of research. He all reached out to the health department to find out if anything be done about this. As far as I know, he could tell me I'm not correct, but we do allow fire pits and chimeneas in our town. I don't know if there's a time limit. We'll reach out to Chief Flanagan to get some more information and find out if we can, if it's time after hours that people aren't allowed to use their pits or their fire pits or their chimeneas. I'm not about that, but I'll definitely reach out and find out some more information.
Just addressing the Mr. Griffo's question about chickens. Do we know how far away his chicken coop is from the property line?
Councilman, I don't have that information offhand, although I certainly can find out. I do know that that there was a summons that was issued related to the chicken issue, and I can get that information disseminated to the council.
Yeah, I had looked into the expanding the chicken ordinance several years ago, and so I'm familiar with the requirements for 50 feet to the property line. I'm not sure how changing that to an adjacent house would work, because if the adjacent property puts up a swimming pool or puts up a child care area on the property line, then then it poses a problem. I think that at least when I looked into the chicken issue, while Mr. Griffo's chickens presumably don't make any noise or are healthy, there is a certain amount of health data showing that chickens do make noise and do pose a potential nuisance near adjacent property owners. So I'm not sure how we could do that, but I would probably depend on the administration. If the health department believes that there is no issue, then maybe we could consider a change. But I think we have to depend on defer to the health department. So
I can certainly have the health department review Mr. Griffo's petition or suggestion. I will say that this issue arose out of a complaint from a neighbor regarding the chickens on Mr. Griffo's property.
Okay.
And generally the concern from the health department, and this is the chicken ordinance is in the health department area of the code, not the animal control area.
Right.
So it's really a health department issue. And the concern is sanitation, particularly if the chickens are not well maintained, odor from the chickens, And then, you know, I understand that they can attract rodents as well. And there's also some other sort of general other sanitary concerns. So I think that was the crux of why the ordinance is where it is, and it's been like that for quite some time. I know that when this came up a few years ago, there was another issue with a property owner, very similar circumstance where a chicken coop was installed that was too close to a property line, and the neighbors complained. And my recollection at that time is the health department did not recommend a change to the ordinance, although certainly we can have them review it again and come back to us with any kind of other suggestions, or to affirm that their recommendation is to maintain the ordinance in its current state.
Thank you.
Do we know how, was it just one complaint or was it several residents? Because I have noticed that a residential, or it looks like from the street, a residential construction is going up. I want to say it's probably right behind or in that same, the same vicinity of where the chicken coop is. And so it doesn't have any, you know, residents there as currently, but, you know, making any type of changes to the ordinance without, you know, actually knowing how it's going to impact. And I don't know how many feet away from, you know, the property line that, you know, this new residential building that's going up, or housing units, we probably want to look into that too.
Let's see what the health department recommends. If they don't recommend any changes to the ordinance, then I would defer to the health department, since this is a health department issue.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just wanted to put out there that there is construction going on currently. Yeah. It's going to have, you know, other residents that are going to be there.
Right.
On you know, on that particular premise. So just wanted to add that.
Thank you. All right. If there are no more comments from council on public hearing, I'll move on to the report of the mayor and town officials.
Okay. Good evening. We have a proclamation to do. We'll do that first. This is a proclamation on the 19th Amendment for women who fought for the ratification of it on August 18th, 1920. And I think it's appropriate that I read this into the record, since history was again made today when our Democratic nominee for president has picked a woman for his running mate, in case anybody on the council did not know that. And that person is Kamala Harris. Okay, whereas the bold, courageous, and powerful woman who fought for the ratification of the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution on August 18th, 1920, and certification on August 26th, 1920 by the United States Secretary of State deserves special celebration on the 100th anniversary of this achievement. New Jersey was the 29th state to ratify the 19th Amendment on February 9th, 1920. New Jersey holds a special place in women's suffrage history, as thousands of New Jersey women advocated for the right to vote on the streets, in the newspapers, in the state capitol, and throughout the state. The 19th Amendment did not guarantee suffrage for all women, including Native American women who did not gain the right to vote till 1924, Asian Pacific Islander American women until 1952, and African American women and Latinas who were the victims of voter suppression until passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and 1975. And today, record numbers of women are serving in local, state, and national government and running for office in unprecedented numbers. As part of the legacy of these resolute American suffragists, and the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution has played an important role in advancing the rights of all women. Now, therefore, I, Timothy P. Doherty, Mayor of the Town of Morristown, do hereby proclaim and honor the role of ratification of the 19th Amendment to further promoting the core values of our democracy as promised by the Constitution of the United States, reaffirming the opportunity for everyone to learn about and commemorate the efforts of the women suffrage movement and the role of women in our democracy. It reaffirms Morristown's desire to continue to strengthen democratic participation and to inspire future generations to cherish and preserve the historic precedent established under the 19th Amendment. Furthermore, I encourage residents, community leaders, and civic institutions to celebrate August 18th, 2020 as the 100th anniversary of the passage and ratification of the 19th Amendment, providing for women's suffrage, and August 26, 2020 as the date of the official certification. And if I just may just take a moment for those who are attending this meeting and take a look at the attendees, you'll see many women serve on our local governing body. We have Jillian Barrick as a woman leading the business side administration of the town of Morristown. We have our town attorney, Joni's there, and our clerk. So we are surely celebrating the rights of women and the powerful movement, as so many now are involved in so many levels of the political system and our Constitution of the United States. So congratulate all you women and keep up the great work.
Mayor Doherty, can I add something real quickly?
Yes, you may.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Mayor Doherty, can I add something?
Am I on mute? No, go ahead, Councilwoman.
Can you hear me? I'm not sure.
Yes. We can hear you. We can hear you.
Can't hear anybody, so I guess I'll add anything. Okay. There's a group of elected officials from throughout Morris County that's working on a celebration for the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment. It's going to be August 30th at Madison Town Hall. I will provide a flyer for distribution, and I do want to congratulate two of our other two councilwomen, Toshiba Foster, Juana Cotton, women of color, that we all fought so hard to get where we are. So congratulations to all the women out there, and hopefully everybody will celebrate with us on August 3rd in Madison.
Thank you, Councilwoman, and I'll make sure that gets distributed. If you can get that to Kristen. Can you hear, Councilwoman?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. Just a couple of other things. We've been doing pretty good with our COVID response. We've had 2 positives, I think, in 16 days, which is terrific for our community. Our residents are really adhering to the principles and the ideas of what the CDC has come up with, and some of the leading people in this field of trying to push down COVID-19 by wearing masks and hygiene and washing your hands a lot and keeping your distance. I did see an article in the paper the other day that that Mr. Iannacone was quoted in. I was not called on that article, or I would have made a quote. I also support our governor in what he's doing as far as trying to keep this state headed in a direction to keep COVID from expanding. As you see in other places, when there's more of an urban center, especially for Morristown, I know the restaurants are hurting, but he's doing what he thinks is best for the state and the residents of New Jersey, and we will support, at least this administration will support him in that endeavor. Although I know the restaurants want to open, and I get it, and it's really difficult. We've had some closures, but this is unprecedented pandemic, and we see how it's affecting throughout the whole country. I don't know the latest on our school. If it's possible, I don't like to put Vij, our town attorney, on the spot. Vij, could you give us a brief synopsis of what's happening with the school?
Sure. As of right now, K-5 is going to be in person, 9 to 1, no recess, no lunch. 6 through 12 is going to be 50% in, 50% out. By that, I mean 50% in school and 50% virtual. And the people who are in virtual are going to follow along live at home or from their house. So, and then they're going to switch. So it's 2 days on, 2 days off. And that is, as of right now, and everyone has the option of all virtual. A lot of people have taken advantage of that. If parents are uncomfortable sending their children to school, they have the option, and they have exercised their option to keep the kids at home and to do the all virtual option. So as of right now, it's very hard because you never know what's going to happen. You see stories from all over the country of people testing positive and then having to quarantine. So as of right now, that's what the plan is.
Okay. Thank you, Counselor, for that update. One other thing about our downtown, remember our soft retail is open. There's no more crucial time now to adhere to that slogan, shop local. Please support your local merchants, from soft retail to your restaurants all across the town. It is important, especially when there's bad weather. The businesses take a big hit when the outside dining can't take place. So I am suggesting that if you're planning on going outside and eating, and it's a bad night, rainy night, get it to go so you can still support the businesses and keep them afloat, because we want to try to hold on to as many businesses as possible, because we don't know how long this is going to last, or how this keeps affecting us each day. Let me briefly touch on the power outage that just took place. A 2-hour storm wreaked havoc on Morristown and several other communities throughout the state of New Jersey. I did not get power myself back till late Sunday evening. And if I had to listen to another day of a generator, I think I would have run out of my mind. But it was a very, very difficult few days until we got things, at least on a generator. But I have to applaud the residents of Morristown. A lot of people were out of power. I got a lot of emails, a lot of calls. I know it was stressful, but I think everybody did really well with what they were given. I want to also thank Verizon's poll crew. I want to thank the many different organizations of utility workers that came from all over this country to help us out, along with other states, especially the guys from Reading, PA. And I've never experienced anything like watching the forestry crew from West Virginia in action. I've learned a few things, obviously, over the years with 2 hurricanes and now this storm. I'm not going to I chose not to publicly take shots at JCP&L, but we'll discuss what took place and what we think that we need as a community to make our lines safer in our backyards and our poles. That some are very old. I mean, mine were stamped BT. So, if those who don't know what BT is, Bell Telephone. That's old poles. So I'm getting a lot of calls about Cablevision and some other non-electrical utility, FiOS areas, and Cablevision, Optima. There's a number on the website at www.townofmorristown.org. You'll see the BPU numbers posted. If you cannot get through and you're having trouble with Cablevision, call those numbers. That's the Board of Public Utilities. Call. Let them know that Cablevision's not responding, because I'm getting a lot of complaints that people are under the COVID-19. People are forced to work from home. They need their internet service. They need their BIOS. They need the ability to be on the internet to work. So it is just as crucial that we have our electrical power, that we have our internet service and our phones, especially because most of us are stuck working at home. So on that note, I just want to also publicly thank our JCP&L rep, Bob Flynn. I did not have to reach out once to him. He reached out to me on a daily basis for updates. I just want to thank him because I know he was putting a lot of pressure along with the governor's office to get things moved in Morristown, and they did. And it took a few days, but we got it done. Everybody is back. No one is out of power as of yesterday afternoon. So let's hope that we learn again from this storm and talk to JCP&L about making our access better, trees trimmed, and our poles are up to date. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. All right. Council liaison reports.
The Park Authority has, excuse me, I'm sorry, wrong one, Toshiba. But the partnership did not meet since our last meeting. However, they continue to be working with the businesses in town. I echo what the mayor said, and actually, I actually refer people to the partnership website. It's a lot of good information on the Morristown Partnership website about opening store hours, some promotions that are going on with some of these businesses. So to the extent we can, let's get the message out for people to get into the habit, in addition to listening to the mayor's updates, checking the town's website, but also start getting into the habit of checking the Morristown Partnership website. It's a lot of information there. Secondly, you know, the sad news is we're starting to see some businesses starting to struggle and actually close, which is, you know, it's very, very sad. You know, the good news is, you know, Morristown's going to come out of this. I was talking with Jen, and there's quite a few people looking at Morristown still to relocate their businesses. You know, so they're still getting inquiries to bring their businesses to Morristown. So it remains a place to be, and we just got to get through these bad times. That's it, Stefan.
Thank you.
As far as the Morristown Parking Authority, there's nothing new. They want to make the public aware of. Their next meeting will be Tuesday on the 18th.
MHA, Morris Housing Authority. On the past meeting, the board passed the House Rules Resolution to alleviate the increase of inappropriate social behavior and some criminal activity in Menahan Village, especially because we are in the summer months and going through the pandemic. The activities that were of most concern were consumption of alcohol, marijuana in public, noise in front lawn barbecues, loud disorder conduct, large groups of individuals staying up to even morning hours. There was a report of the 4th of July that was very problematic. And the board took several steps to deal with those situations. For example, they have asked and obtained increased evening police presence from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. The cap space was completed for officer use. Additional loitering signage being erected at Clyde Potts Drive. Additional cameras to be placed in the community. Increasing levels of site inspections, including towing of unauthorized vehicles. A written reminder to all Menahan residents of house rules prohibiting all those activities, the ones that I just mentioned. Ramping up social evictions for repeat violators and zero tolerance on offenders. This will give a quality of living to the residents that want to abide by the rules. On another note, RAD update, over the next 30 to 45 days, there will be a scheduling of meetings with the high-rise senior residents to discuss the status of the RAD project. These meetings are required, and it is very important that they keep the residents informed of the plans so they don't get uptight or with misinformation, especially on the seniors buildings. And that's it from MHA. I have one question for Mr. Iannacone. Any thoughts or brainstorming on what is going to happen with restaurants during the fall and winter? Any conversations or?
What a lot of them are waiting on is they're waiting on what can happen with indoor dining. You know, some of them, you know, it's going to be all weather conditioned. You know, again, it's the states making those decisions. I mean, Mayor, you've been keeping us pretty well informed. And
Yeah. So I actually had believe it or not, I had somebody screaming at me last night about getting the restaurants open, and I tried to understand that. Believe me, if we could, we would. We do not have authority as a municipality to override the executive order by the governor of the state of New Jersey. We may not agree with him on everything, but we can't override that. I know that they are taking this conversation of indoor dining serious, and they are having many internal meetings about it. Sure, they're well aware that the weather will change within a couple of months. These restaurants are barely surviving now. If they lose their outside dining, have nothing, you can forget about it. Well, there'll be no more restaurant business in the state. Forget about Morristown, just in the state in general. So I think that I think the best that we can do is continue to do what we're doing with our masks, washing our hands, keeping distance. So we keep this down. So we keep pushing it down and weakening it and pushing it down. But when you see things like, and I'm not getting on a soapbox, but when you see things like 700 people having a party, something just happened the other day, they had 300 people, 400 people, that's not going to do any of us any good when we're trying to get our economy going back in the state of New Jersey. So I am in touch with the Assistant Chief of Staff. Our liaison, Rob Field, is back now after a leave. I talked to him this morning, so we will get an update. And what we'll do is I'll update the council members if I hear anything, and Bob can update the partnership to let the restaurants know if we hear anything. But it's something we're talking about weekly, and we bring it up, and they're just not there yet. Beej watches the press conferences every day that the governor has it. That's his job. And we all are waiting. He talks about it, right, Counselor? He just, it's not time yet.
He does. He talks about the indoor gyms, indoor dining, and according to him and the medical experts, which I am neither, that the rate of transmission is going down, but at the same time, when you're talking about indoor spaces and when you're sitting for a prolonged amount of time, studies show that there is infection, and asymptomatic people can pass along the virus. So it's not only just the indoor space, but it's also when you're at a restaurant, you're sitting there for a amount of time, which
Correct.
is reduces.
And one of the things that they talked about, and there was an article in the paper today, because I'm actually working within my other job dealing with the air infiltration, is air conditioning as a source of spreading coronavirus. So that was an article that was in the paper. So that's a concern when you have people sitting there without masks for prolonged periods of time, recycling air. How do they make sure that air is coronavirus free? So that's another issue, and all those are the things that they're working through and they're studying, and it's a great question. I have concerns. I know the council has concerns. I know the partnership has real concerns, and because we just see it in the downtown. We talk to people all the time. So as soon as I know or hear something, as soon as our counselor hears something, you will all know. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll give a report I'm going to give a report on the Shade Tree Commission. I'm not sure if everybody can hear me. Native Crestwood was planted 5 10-foot American holly trees and cleaned up of invasive species and vines. Thank you to the administration for supporting us on that. Working on a beautiful campaign and contest, details to follow. We are proceeding with our fall planting. It will be wards 1 3 this year, next year it's 2 and 4. We're also working on having cards printed up for each of the new species that do get planted with some information so people know what species is, when it was planted, just the basic information, and that it's a town tree so people understand that. We're all working on striking. So each Shade Commission member has been assigned 2 parks to assess the forestry needs regarding invasive species, vines, the shrubs, and they're going to come up with a report sometime in the fall to present to the council, and we will be keeping everybody informed on that. The last thing I'm going to bring up is that we've had vandalism to our trees in Ward 3, Bellevue, and Grant. If you live in the neighborhood and see somebody drill holes into a tree, they're basically vandalizing the property. Please call the police. I know people don't want to rat out their neighbors, but the property of town is not allowed to be vandalized. It's crime. It's a disgrace. You're going to end up with no trees in that neighborhood, and people are going to be hot. There's not going to be any aid because somebody wants to vandalize trees. So we're asking people to keep their eye out and don't allow your neighbors to ruin your neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to give a shout out to the Shade Tree Commission and the administration for their efforts to treat the 3 or 4 ash trees in Burnham Park and in the neighborhood. I know that the neighbors are very, very much appreciative of all your efforts on that. So thank you.
I would like to mention that the Morristown Environmental Commission welcomed their newest commissioner, Aaron Oliver. I look forward to meeting him. I also want to remind everyone that the meetings are the first Tuesday of every month. Thank you.
You're muted, Toshiba. You're muted.
I'm sorry, I didn't have a comment.
Oh.
At least not to you.
I'm so sorry, you know, this is dinner time. Everybody wants to know what's for dinner.
Okay, I guess we'll close that portion and move on to regular business.
Okay, we have 4 ordinances for introduction this evening. Ordinance number O-24-2020, an ordinance of the town of Morristown and the county of Morris, state of New Jersey, for compensation for management/non-union positions in the town of Morristown, New Jersey, and amending all ordinances concerning such compensation heretofore adopted.
I'll make a motion to introduce this ordinance.
I'll second.
Any comments or questions?
I have a comment and question on that. I want to be balanced, as I stated my comment and asked the question, and the balance is between being gracious because we all make mistakes, but at the same time, knowing that there are mistakes that shouldn't be made. So my question is, what is the procedure of review? How many people review things before they come out? Resolutions, ordinances, they come out, they become public. They could be problematic if there was other topic, even maybe in a legal aspect. So I want to know what is the procedure, number 1. Number 2, if there are corrections that are being made to that procedure after this mistake. And even though it is not impact for the entire population of Morristown with this thing, I'm asking myself, how is the morale of the employees that thought that they were gonna have some kind of raise, and after that, no, this is a mistake. So those are my comments and questions.
Councilman, you know, we do our best to get everything right every time. And occasionally there is a mistake made. In this case, I will accept responsibility for that. and trying to ensure that all of the agenda items get on in a timely manner. This is something that simply was a clerical error that was made. We have a few people that review ordinances and things. The ordinance is several lines long. Many of the salary ranges are very close together, and this is simply an oversight. There's no sort of grandiose change in our process or something that really needs to happen. This was simply a clerical error that happened, which will certainly be avoided in the future. That being said, excuse me. The employees anticipated their pay raises, similar to the raises they've gotten every single year. No employee's raise was withheld. Pending the change in the ordinance. This is simply a correction that was completely clerical in nature, and everyone will ultimately get the raise that they're entitled to. I have not seen, nor do I anticipate any material impact in morale for employees with regard to this error that needs to be corrected this evening.
No other questions? Call the question.
On the introduction of ordinance O-24-2020, Councilwoman Cotton.
You're muted, Councilwoman.
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster.
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone.
Yes.
Councilwoman Mayer.
Yes.
Councilman Silva.
Yes.
Council President Armington.
Yes.
Ordinance O-24-2020 has been introduced properly by title and will be considered further after a public hearing on September 8th. Ordinance number O-25-2020, an ordinance amending and supplementing the code of the town of Morristown, Chapter 7, Traffic.
I'll make a motion to adopt, to introduce O-25-2020.
I'll second.
Comments or questions? On the introduction of ordinance 25-2020, Councilwoman Cotton.
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster.
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone.
Yes.
Councilwoman Mayer.
Yes.
Councilman Silva.
Yes.
Council President Armington.
Yes.
Ordinance 25-2020 has been introduced properly by title and will be considered further after a public hearing on September 8th. Ordinance number O-26-2020, an ordinance amending and supplementing the code of the town of Morristown, Chapter 3, Police Regulations.
I'll make a motion to introduce O-26-2020.
I'll second.
Comments and questions?
The ordinance didn't say what the changes were. It just said what the end result was. It said what the fees were, but I wasn't aware what the prior fees were and what was the reason for the increase.
Council, we'll make sure to distribute a red line version before the next council meeting. Okay. This was actually requested initially by one of our local towers, Morristown Auto, who pointed out that we have not raised our towing rates in several years. He's made a similar request to the neighboring jurisdictions that he also serves. And I believe the township did theirs last month, and I believe the Morristown's the last one to make an adjustment. I think given the request that he's made, it's a modest increase, and it's something that I think is a reasonable request to submit. But again, and I believe that his initial request was distributed to council members some months back, but I will make sure to distribute that again, and it includes a red light version of what the prior ordinance was and what the increase is requested.
Great, thank you very much.
Jillian, is this something that needs to be done via competitive bid on the price?
No, the fees are set by ordinance.
They're set by ordinance only?
Yes.
All right, call the question.
On the introduction of ordinance 26-2020, Councilwoman Cotton.
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster.
You're muted.
Sorry, yes.
Councilman Iannacone.
Yes.
Councilwoman Mayer.
She's muted and
Councilwoman Mayer.
You're muted, Councilwoman Mayer.
You want to nod?
All right, move on to someone else.
Maybe having technical issues.
Councilman Silva,
Yes.
Council President Armington,
Yes.
Councilman Ware, can you hear me?
No, she can't. All right, move on.
Okay, ordinance 26-2020 has been introduced properly by title. It will be considered further after public hearing on September 8th. Ordinance O-27-2020, ordinance appropriating $311,000 from the Sewer Capital Improvement Fund for various sewer improvements in and by the town of Morristown in the county of Morris, New Jersey.
I'll make a motion to introduce O-27-2020.
I'll second.
Comments or questions? On the introduction of 27-2020, Councilwoman Cotton,
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster,
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mayer,
Yes.
Councilman Silva,
Yes.
Yes.
Council President Armington.
Yes.
Ordinance 27-2020 has been introduced properly by title and will be considered further after a public hearing on September 8th. We do not have any ordinances for a public hearing and adoption. We do have 8 resolutions on the agenda. Unless a member of council would like to pull one or more for separate consideration, I would ask for a motion to approve the 8 resolutions en masse.
Can I put 125 or 120 2020?
I'm sorry, 125?
Which ones? I think it was 20. Let's.
I think it was 125, 2020.
Okay.
Okay.
125.
Okay. Any others? Okay, I would amend that motion to approve resolution numbers 120-2020 through 124-2020 and 126-2020, 127-2020.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
On the adoption of those resolutions, Councilwoman Cotton,
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster,
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mayer. Okay, Councilman Silva,
Yes.
Council President Armington.
Yes.
Motion carries. Resolution number R 125-2020. That is a resolution authorizing issuance of permits to educational institutions for temporary structures. May I have a motion to introduce?
I'll make a motion to introduce.
We're adopting, correct?
I mean adoption, correct.
I'll make a motion to adopt.
Second.
Councilwoman Mayer?
I have a question on it. I assume the temporary structures are all on school property.
Correct. So to get some backgrounds, the town has gotten requests from Red Oak School and Peck School regarding potentially installing temporary structures for the purposes of instruction with regard to COVID-19. So I think in order to facilitate the ability for these schools to provide instruction on site, we wanted to provide a process to facilitate their ability to provide instruction in these temporary structures on the outside, particularly Red Oak School, which clearly wanted to use the outside structure for instruction. I keep saying instruction, but that's what we're talking about. Peck School, on the other hand, had initially suggested that they wanted to use their structure for broader purposes. We think that it's important to allow for the ability for these institutions to provide, student instruction, but it should not be for, special events, coffee hours, things like that. So we want to make sure that these structures are limited and specifically in response to COVID-19.
Would it be appropriate to have them notify the adjacent property owners of the temporary change? There's not really any opportunity for public comment, but just as a let you know, here's what's happening. Council adopted a resolution that essentially allows the administration to or waives the zoning requirements for temporary structures, but we wanted to let you know that this is happening.
I think we can certainly accommodate making sure that the neighbors are notified if they move forward with that, with installing a structure like that.
Okay.
Yeah, Council President, we don't have no one has made a formal application yet. Once they make a formal application, we'll make sure that the neighbors are notified.
Okay.
Yes.
Sounds good. Any other questions on Councilwoman Mayer? Any questions? No? Okay. Call the question.
On the adoption of Resolution 125, 2020, Councilwoman Cotton,
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster,
Yes.
Councilman Iannacone,
Yes.
Councilwoman Mayer,
Yes.
Councilman Silva,
Yes.
and Council President Armington.
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries.
You hear me?
Yes, thank you.
All right. I assume that completes the regular business.
Yes, it does.
All right. So there is no unfinished business, old business, new business. I wanted to bring up the idea of the town's noise ordinance, given that we essentially have been adding a lot of downtown residential, and we have greater potential conflicts between the residential and the downtown and the commercial. It's a question for the administration. My feeling about the noise ordinance is, and has always been, that we essentially follow the state's noise ordinance without any monitoring or assessment. It's reactionary to public complaints, and when a public member of the public complains, the police or someone in the administration addresses it very promptly, makes a qualitative determination about whether or not it's a violation. My understanding is they typically will just sort of give a warning and say, can you shut it down? Hopefully it gets shut down. If it doesn't, the administration may issue a summons. I don't know if the summons, if they challenge the summons based on an interpretation by the police department that it was too noisy. What is the administration's thoughts on how effective this is?
Can I ask one quick question?
Sure.
So is there a particular place or area that this was brought up that facilitated this whole noise thing, or is this just a blanket policy look at residential within the business district?
I think it's no particular place that I'm aware of. I know that Bob's neighbors or Bob's constituents have complained more about noise in the downtown. I think in the residential areas, it's relatively well addressed. I guess the question is, it's purely, in my opinion, reactionary. And if the public get tired of complaining, then there's no noise problems, essentially. And is that the right way to address an issue?
Well, the first thing I would want, excuse me, Bob. The first thing I would want is I want to see the reports from the police on how many complaint calls were put in. Because if it's just hearsay, I mean, there has to be tangible complaints. In other words, if I know if my neighbor is having a party, it goes to 11:30, 12 o'clock, I'm making a phone call. And there's going to be a record, hey, it's too noisy at such and such address. Cops are going to go there, and there's going to be a file. is going to be a report. And if there are a number of reports, because look, I totally get the noise thing in the downtown. I totally get it. And there's residents living in downtown. I get some calls. I tell people to call 911, call emergency, call 911, say it's loud. And you're right, Councilman Armington, then it's a judgment call by the police when they go. It's too loud, not too loud. But this whole, you see the research Mike is doing, and this is going to become very, very cumbersome and very, very, there's just a lot to it when it comes to calibration of equipment. It comes to courts. It comes to all kinds of different things. So I don't know what is facilitating this other than a blanket policy that you're asking us to look at, or is there a specific complaint from a specific group that has an issue with something or a place?
Just a couple of follow-up questions. You had referenced a report or something that Michael was referring to. Was that something that we got?
No, he's working on it. Does he have an update, Jillian, for the council?
Mayor, he sent me an email updating because we assigned Michael to do some research on this issue for me. So he sent me an update as to what he's learned so far. I will say, generally speaking, the few municipalities that we've been able to talk to that have the DEP ordinance in place, quite frankly, are not enforcing it to that level anymore. The DEP ordinance requires that you have the specific decibel levels that are set by ordinance, and then you have to have noise meters in order to track the decibel levels, and then you have to have employees who are specifically trained to use the noise meters, to read the noise meters, to understand the ordinance and whatever. And that training is only given by the DEP. There's actually specific criteria and things that are laid out, so it's pretty involved. And the few towns that we have been able to talk to that have this in place said, well, we used to have an officer that was trained, he retired a few years back. So they're really not enforcing the noise ordinance in that way. They're very much using a similar methodology to what we already use, which is officer observation. And then the officer can then go to court and testify to what they observed. I think particularly in the case of Morristown, where you're considering, and when you're looking at how do you combat downtown noise as opposed to, there's one municipality we spoke to that's in the midst of in implementing this, but they have a very specific issue with protesters with bullhorns, which is a very different situation than what we're dealing with. And I think in that situation, it lends itself more to a more specific type of implementation. I don't know that our ordinance is insufficient to deal with the issues that we already have in place. So I'm not sure what adding the decibel meter requirement would add, except for additional layers of bureaucracy and additional challenges to the court process. Whereas right now, an officer can come and say they observed that the bar did not meet our current noise ordinance. It was after the hours that were in the ordinance, and that's really what they go to court with. Whereas in the future, you could have a situation where, well, the officer that's trained in the decibel meter wasn't on duty that night, and so we had somebody that may not have been trained, and then, well, is the decibel meter calibrated, and does it meet the criteria? It just adds another layer. So if there was a specific thing that we were responding to that I think called for that level of rigor, then I think it may be worth the investment. I know Englewood, which is the municipality I mentioned earlier that's in the midst of implementing it now, they're anticipating almost $10,000 in costs for equipment and training and things like that. It seems like a lot to consider when I'm not sure that our existing noise ordinance doesn't achieve what we're looking to achieve. We will continue to research. I think the Rutgers class is suspended right now because of COVID, just like everything else. Though I understand that they are looking to hold classes maybe later, maybe like a virtual class later in the fall. So we'll continue to research and find some other examples that may be applicable to us. But again, I think there's just kind of a question of whether it's something that's necessary given the challenges that we're currently facing in town.
I guess
Maybe what
Go
would
ahead,
be a
Bob.
good idea is let's talk some more about this, Mayor and Jillian. It is the downtown, and we do get complaints. Now, what we're not telling the public to do, which we can tell the public to do, start calling the police. And you
Yes,
can
please.
call-
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Let me
Yes, the non-emergency line.
let me finish. Okay. Start calling the police, but you know they do tell us. Our constituents do tell us. I get several calls, not lately because of COVID and the town's been quiet, not lately, but there are no non-COVID times, quite a few calls, okay? Quite a few calls, especially in the summer when the doors are open, there's music, live music, there's sometimes speakers with events going on, and it just echoes out. That being said, you know, if we have, you know, the law on the decibel levels, the law on the sound is clear, 55, 65 decibels. What this is what's the process for basically bringing a violation? If we all think, and I'm fine with this too, if we're all of the position that we're going to actively pursue the enforcement of sound levels, if we're going to enforce sound levels and that we don't need this process, we don't think we need the technology, we don't think we need the consistency of process, that we think that we can handle this by addressing individual complaints that we're going to now encourage people to bring directly to the police. Maybe that is the solution. Okay, maybe that is acceptable. But I think what we do have to do is get the message out that there are laws concerning sound levels at property lines, that it's the intent of the town to enforce those laws, and to encourage the public when they see infraction of the law to please report it to the police. Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that I'm asking, is there a specific person, persons, or place that you feel that there's a noise issue? And if so, that's an area that we can look at.
Mm-hmm.
But just to blanketly say that we want to start looking at meters and just go around and be the meter police, I think it could be very dangerous things. What happens, Bob? What happens if we do go down the road of a meter and the meter reads that it's within the level and there's no changes? And then because I know exactly what you're talking about. You're talking about a certain area in town and certain bars. I wasn't born. I was born tonight, but not last night. So if that's the case, what happens if we don't have the discretion of being a commuting? Hey guys, close your doors. Music stops at 11. You got to close your doors. You can't have all the doors wide open. There's ways to enforce it. But if we use a meter and that meter then registers that it doesn't violate the state ordinance, then there's no more protection for us at all.
It will because there's a tenant.
Well, sometimes it won't, but let me finish this point, Stefan, please. I appreciate what you're saying, but also I think what we're also saying in the same discussion, and we're agreeing that the state, we do respect and we do understand the state noise limits, and that we as a town are prepared to enforce it. And we don't think this technology is necessary at the time. We want to maintain, as you're saying, you want to maintain the latitude.
No. I'm not saying anything.
No.
I'm willing to look more into it.
I'm somewhat agreeing with you, okay? Is that what we're going to do is encourage the public, at least for a period of time. Let's take a look at this. When you hear these noise issues coming up, particularly as they may relate to the downtown area, let us know.
Yeah, well, yes, but let Michael Cochran continue to do his research on this, because maybe we can get somebody from one of the towns who is certified can come and check, see what noise levels we have now versus who knows when the town's going to get back to normal. I don't know. Yeah. But I would like Council President that Mr. Cochran continue to do his research. He's done. I was hoping he had a small report for you tonight, maybe you can have a small report for the next meeting, Ms. Barrett.
Absolutely.
And just to bring the council president and Councilman Iannaccone and the rest of the council up to speed, because this is a very interesting and yet complicated issue.
Yeah. I would also note, just from the, given that the town's, the outdoor dining ordinance and the general conditions on restaurants and bars, we essentially say, okay, it's okay until 11, and then after 11 you got to tone it down. The problem or opportunity, if you will, or what should be acknowledged, that if you go down this route, the state time differentiation is 10. At 10 o'clock, it goes down to 50 decibels, which is basically sleeping, or 3 decibels or 6 decibels greater than existing, background levels. So that should be an acknowledgement, whether you do it or you don't do it, that if you do it, then it creates an opportunity for some people, if you will, to say it's 10:30 and it's too loud and it's the outdoor. And I'm just, I'm not saying.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
I'm just saying that should be acknowledged, and our general policy approach is we're supporting the downtown. We believe generally, at least to date, that noise up until 11 o'clock is okay, and after that it's got to start toning down a little bit. That is not consistent with the state code that really is our code, even though we don't really implement that, I don't believe. So that's just my 2 cents from a noise perspective. But I look forward to seeing Michael's report.
I just want to add something, because there are not only situations by the business district. I know in your word, Stefan, that in the last 2 months that I know, at least 2 incidents in houses that put speakers on the backyard, and they were having a big party at 11:30 at night, and they called the police, because they asked me, and they said, call the police. So in this sense, I go with Mayor Tim, that it's a different thing thinking about the bars and thinking something that happens in a neighborhood where there is no bars, but there is the situation. I don't know if they have contact you, because I told some neighbors that they should contact you.
Contact me or contact mayor or the police?
They call the police, but I told them to contact you because you're the councilman for that area.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be
call
better to call the police.
Call the police in real time. If you have a noise issue, I don't care when it is, day, night, or day. If there's excessive noise, call the police. Let that's their job, and do it in real time.
Yes.
And that's the key. Thank you, Mr. Cochran, with that real time issue.
Can I piggyback off of that, Mayor?
Sure.
I'm glad that you said call the police during the daytime. I think that some people are under the impression that they can make as much noise as they want until 10:30 with speakers outside or whatever's going on. Cars that have loud systems that they can open up the back. And so I just wanted to stress, if people are being affected by loud nuisances, please call, because then the officers can come while it's happening.
Yes.
And then they normally just tell them to turn it down a little bit. There's lots of easy ways, fixes to I mean, it's an interesting topic. It really is, noise and quality of life and all the different things that go with it. We have a vibrant downtown, and I'm not a lawyer, but I think if you try to curtail businesses early because you think they're too loud, you're going to get lawsuits filed. I could be wrong, but it's a vibrant downtown. So
All right.
let's see what we find out with the research, and it's a good discussion. It's really something that's good, because we are still going to be doing things in our downtown. We have all in North Park Place that one day is going to happen, and up Washington Street, and down by the post office. Lots of things happening, moving, and so, you know, these are good topics to come to a solution with. Really are.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next new business, daytime commercial vehicle parking, Councilwoman Cotton.
Yes, so there are my constituents who want to clean up our ward, and that by saying that, meaning they want to have the ordinance enforced when they see tow trucks parked by the playground on Jersey Avenue or other vehicles that are oversized vehicles, whether people are working on them, fixing them right in front of the playground. That's like a hot spot. I just received some more photos from a constituent with these oversized vehicles on the street. And so the concern is, especially with the tow truck that drives on the street, if residential streets are designed for that weight capacity, and now there's a semi tractor that is parked in a driveway. And so they're concerned about their quality of life when you have to start these trucks. They're concerned about the fumes coming in the house. And this evidently has been an issue. The semi truck is new, the semi tractor, rather, I'm sorry if I'm saying it incorrectly, is new. However, there apparently have been complaints in the past regarding these oversized trucks on residential streets. And they want them to be fined when they're parked over the sign for the ordinance, or looking into some other options of how to get these large vehicles off of residential street. Their complaint is this is a residential street. It's not a commercial district, so they have a lot of concerns about it. And evidently it's been happening for a while, and they want these issues addressed. So I'm just trying to figure out ways that we can address these issues. And I wanted to bring this to the council.
Councilman, you and I had a conversation earlier today about this briefly. And I know that the tow truck on Jersey Avenue has been an issue. However, there's nothing prohibiting the tow truck from parking for short periods of time during the day. There is a prohibition for overnight parking. And, you know, in the past, we've suggested to residents, if they see the tow truck parked overnight, to, again, call the police non-emergency number so that we can have it addressed in real time. You know, we have not had any observations of the tow truck during overnight hours as of yet. My understanding is that they park in the township somewhere overnight. But as far as the tractor trailer is concerned, being parked in the driveway, I believe that's a zoning violation. And I think you sent me an email about that earlier, so we'll have that addressed. You know, we can certainly talk more offline about the specific issue in your neighborhood. One thing you may want to consider discussing with your neighbors is implementing some kind of residential parking that would limit the other types of vehicles that can park on the street. The flip side of that is that it would implement a permit process, which, you know, your neighbors would have to, you know, they'd have to get permits annually from the clerk's office. So that would be kind of something new they would have to do if that's something that they're interested in. But we can continue to work with the police department on trying to address any vehicles that are illegally parked. And you and I can continue to discuss how to address that.
If I may jump in for 1 second. I actually received a complaint, Councilwoman Cotton, and I forwarded to the police chief on the semi-tractor trailer cab.
Yes.
That was, I think, on Jersey Ave, I think.
Cottage, I believe.
Cottage, that's it, Cottage. And there are ordinances in place, and I think the council should, or the police chief could provide and VEJ provide the council with the ordinances for what's allowed and what's not allowed, for how long they're allowed to be parked in a driveway at someone's home and they can't be there after 9 o'clock at night. There's a lot of things in the ordinance that I don't have in front of me, but if you and the police chief could get the ordinances dealing with the tow truck and semi-tractor trailer vehicles in the residential neighborhoods, what's allowed, what's not allowed, what's the timing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, VEJ?
Yes, sir. Got it.
Okay,
Got it.
Councilman McCollum, we'll get you all that information. If changes need to be made, then you as a governing body can make the changes.
Yeah, and I just like to add, I just personally, and I don't know what the will of the council is. I've requested the ordinance. Our clerk has provided me with the ordinance. I do know that the issue on Jersey Avenue, and it's multiple commercial vehicles, so it's not just dealing with the tow truck that's parked there. And to your point, Business Administrator Jillian, we've talked about this as well. I do understand coming in and maybe taking a rest period, maybe grabbing lunch and leaving. But the problem with the ordinance, in my opinion, is it allows these commercial vehicles, dump trucks per se, open back dump trucks, to be parked from, the ordinance it prohibits it to be parked, I think it's either 9 or 10 p.m. to 6 o'clock a.m. So the ordinance actually allows for the vehicle to be parked for, let's say, 15 hours during the day. Residents on the street, if they're asleep at 9, 10 o'clock at night, who's going to report that the truck is parked and it's prohibited during that time period? And so do we really want to have commercial tow trucks or vehicles parked during the day if they're not doing a service or providing a service for the residents that are on the street? I think it imposes a parking problem, from what I'm told, to the residents on Jersey Avenue. And then you have the surrounding streets who also have a problem with these vehicles that are parked there all day, because the ordinance calls for them to be able to park there from 6 a.m. to 9 or 10 o'clock p.m. So is that something that we want to look at and possibly change? I mean, I could see if their services being performed at a residential property on those streets, but if there are no services being performed, then why are they allowed to park there for that amount of time?
So I guess I would recommend, probably prudent to set up a committee to work with administration and the law department about what the existing conditions are, what problems we're addressing, and what is legally allowed, and report back to council. I assume Tawana and Shiva would like to be on that. Anyone else?
I'm happy to work with you both, and I can follow up with you in the morning.
Okay, that sounds great. So,
I'm sorry, was there a third subcommittee member, or?
I think we'll just do 2 at this time.
Thank you.
And so, if there's anything else? Nope. Okay. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Good
Thank
meeting,
you.
Council President.
Thank you.
Great night.
Good night, all.